What's going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics. We've got a slightly different video today. If you are at all involved in selling on eBay or even buying on eBay, because this is probably going to have an impact on the buyer's side as well, eBay just announced a very frustrating change. It's so obnoxious when this happens because it doesn't. I mean, I complain about eBay sometimes, but granted, I like selling on eBay. I like the kind of set it and forget it type of format that you get with it. But man, it just feels like they just keep nickel and diming the fees and just finding different ways to slide fees in and try to make it seem like they aren't adding fees, but they actually are. And it just seems to happen like clockwork year after year. And they've got a new one that is just, it's ridiculous. This one is pretty ridiculous. So if you're an eBay seller, you got a notification recently about an update to eBay advertising. It's, this little notification today, or right here, you probably saw it in your seller's platform. Maybe you got an email about it and says seller announcement updates to eBay's promoted listings are coming soon. So if we go over to the seller announcement, it says exclusive ad placement with priority campaigns. So there's some things up here on top, but I feel like they bury the lead a little bit on what's actually I'd say the most significant change that they're making. That is really probably the most costly to us as sellers. So it goes exclusive ad placement with priority campaigns starting January 13th, 2026. We're upgrading the priority strategy experience campaigns using a priority strategy. For items listed on eBay, will get exclusive access to the first ad slots in the top of eBay search results. So this is the first thing. Basically, if you aren't paying for priority campaigns, you are not going to show up at the top of the search results. That is already kind of frustrating, annoying, ridiculous, whatever you want to call it. I don't use this. I don't use their priority campaigns. What I do use is their general promoted listings. Now, I used to always use it when you had a minimum percentage of 1% that you could do for the promoted listings. Then, I don't know, it was a couple of years ago, they increased it to where the minimum you could do was 2%. So basically they doubled your promoted listing fee. And so for a while I turned them off and I noticed that my sales suffered. I turned them off and I noticed my sales dropped. And so I was like, I'll turn them back on. And so I turned them back on and I've had them on for however long. Now we get this one. So updated attribution for general campaigns starting January 13th, 2026. So be aware of that date because it's coming up. Items listed on eBay and promoted with general campaign strategy will use the following attribution definition when reporting sales and charging ad fees. An attributed sale will be when any buyer purchases the promoted item within 30 days of any click on the ad, regardless of whether the buyer themselves clicked on the ad. The item must be promoted at the time of the click and the time of the sale, and the time of sale. The seller will be charged the ad rate at the time of sale. So if you don't grasp what that says, the way that promoted clicks or promoted listings have worked forever, as long as they've been out there, is that you put a promotion on your listing, say you do 2% or whatever. And if that promoted listing where, it shows up basically with a priority on their search results or whatever, if the person clicks on that promoted listing and ends up buying the item, whether it's right then or within 30 days of clicking on it, you will be charged the promoted listing fee, which is 2% of the total sale. Now, it doesn't matter who clicked on it. If anyone ever clicked on that within the 30-day period, clicked on that promoted listing, and any other person out there buys it, you get charged the promotion fee. What sense does that make? That's the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. They should just change what they're calling this, because this is no longer a targeted promotion. They should just say, we are charging you a flat 2% additional fee no matter what if you are using promotions. and just stop trying to like bull crap us with this and make it seem like it's a promotion. Because if you look into this, basically they tried this out in Germany already. And so if you jump over to this was an announcement from earlier this year, or I think it was actually last year, earlier this year. Starting February 26th, items listed on eBay will, with a general campaign strategy, will use the following attribution definition. It's in German, but I had it, converted to English, and it basically says the same thing. The ad fee is charged if a buyer purchased the item advertised in a basic ad that clicked by any buyer in the last 30 days. So they tried this out in Germany. They said, hey, we made a bunch more money. We're going to apply it to a much bigger audience now. And it got transitioned over to, the US and I think Canada and that kind of thing. So now we've got this additional fee. If you're using promotions, if you've got it. Now, when I've looked at this, and, like some people have been talking about it, and, of course, everybody's doing the same thing that I did back when they increased the fee from 1% to 2%, where they're like, I canceled my promotions already. And, I might end up doing that as well. I haven't decided yet, or I at least might try it for a little while. I mean, but the tricky part's going to be that, my sales have dropped significantly this year already. Significantly this year. And so, this is probably why, eBay's doing this stuff. Is like they're seeing reduced sales and they're like, oh, we need to keep our numbers up. And so we're going to increase the fees that we charge you. And this is their way of doing it in kind of a roundabout way. Instead of just flat increasing, your base fee, which everybody notices, you do it in this kind of like roundabout, kind of crappy way. And if you look at this article that was done about this when it was released in Germany, it says just a week and a half into the attribution changes in Germany, sellers were already seeing ad attribution rates rising to 80 to 90% or more as a result of this massive expansion of how eBay decides whether the ad fee will apply to the sale or not. Apparently, it used to be roughly 50 to 60%, and it jumped to 80 to 90% after they made this change. Because obviously, like if anyone clicks on it, and then the item sells to someone else, like it's just your odds of that happening are so much higher. They even had this one person's sales example where it shows when that went into effect, where the blue bar are we call it like the organic sales, and the green bar are the promoted sales. And the instant this went into effect, like you don't see like necessarily like more sales. I mean, you could maybe argue like they're having maybe a little more sales. I don't know. Like looks like it's still pretty strong around here, but you see it's like all green bar now. Rarely you get a organic sale, and now everything is promoted, meaning that whatever this person's promotion is, like they're now just paying that much more in fees. So it's definitely something that if you are selling on eBay and you use promotions, you should look at what those promotion fees are costing you today. And are you willing to accept an increase in promotion fees of, if it's jumping from 50% to about 80 or 90%, like probably about a 50% increase or a little more in your fee cost. And if you're willing to accept that, so be it. If that's going to, eat into your bottom line too much, then, consider dropping them or at least testing it out to see how your sales change, because that is probably what I'll do. I'll probably test it out. But like I said, it's going to be hard for me to really gauge because I've noticed sales have dropped so much this year already. And so it's like it's one of these frustrating things. Like what we want is we want eBay to actually help us get more sales. Like that's what we're paying them the fees for, right? Like it's like to be that platform that really helps get sales. And instead, all they do, it seems, is just add on more fees and don't really seem to add much value in terms of the sales side. I mean, there's still obviously the biggest platform out there and all of that. But I mean, it just feels like it gets more and more expensive every year to sell on there. But that's all I got to talk about. If you use eBay, if you use promoted listings, just know this is coming on January 13th. Of this coming year, and it is going to cost you more money. So hopefully you enjoyed this, got something out of it. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.